the crack epidemic, and I found myself living in Southside during the New Jack City era. And it was tough. It was tough. And so I love to read. So my writing was birthed from reading, and I have learned that lots of indie authors don't like to read, which I find interesting. How can you hone your craft if you don't even participate in the craft? But anyway, sidebar. So I started reading as a little black girl from the projects of Savannah, Georgia to the projects of Augusta, Georgia. And this is important to be Black History Month. I gotta say this. Danielle Steele was the first author. It's a white woman, and she's a romance author. And my auntie, God rest her soul, realized that I really enjoyed reading. And so she had a bookshelf filled with Danielle Steele. And so when she would finish reading, she would give me the books. And so I visited Montana and Colorado, and I fell in love with cowboys on ranches. And it did not bother me that they were white. In my head, it was me. And so the spark to write started with reading, and I became the woman who was able to gallivant around the world, literally. And I saw Montana, and I put my feet on the ground in South Dakota, and I got to, swim in the Persian Gulf and things of that nature. And so when the Lord said, Angel, it's time for you to leave the world system, I resigned from a 17 plus year career in education and advocacy, and I became what I needed. I became for other women. And so I put all of that inside of these books as books of release. And so I write self-help books that give women mirrors instead of the answers.
Awesome. My spark for writing my book, I think feeling very similarly to you. I was always a reader. And when I started writing this book, it actually came from a dark place. I had just turned 30, and my life didn't look how I thought 30 should look. Uh, you are taught to do all these things, all these checkpoints, and I was exceeding all these checkpoints, but my life, I didn't feel like successful. I didn't feel like I was doing what I needed to do. And you get all these checkpoints, but no one ever teaches you how to fail. No one ever teaches you how to pull yourself up, or how to navigate when you did all the things and it doesn't turn out that way. So I remember sitting on my couch and I had just got done crying, and something was just like, "Let me tell write a story." And I sat there and pulled out my laptop. I never wrote a story, didn't have an outline, and I created these characters, James, Kiana, and Lauren Giselle. And we just took that day, and I found it as my escapism. So I would always just run back to it and write it. And it took me 9 years. I'm 39, and I actually released my book on my 39th birthday. Because I felt that it was just cathartic, and how you say like you wanted to do chapter, that's chapters, so I just felt it's worth something. And I never intended to release it. I was just guided that way, and a project that was for escapism, it pushed me back to myself. And it was just a journey of self-discovery, and through that, like, I learned so much about myself, and I just like love myself so much, and so I always decided to keep it cute.
All right.
So, give me the question one more time. It was just fine. Okay, awesome. So I'm cousin Kobe. My book is called Hidden Superpower. The spark for me was, so I'm the middle of 9 brothers. Me and my brothers, Well, my mother left me and my brothers when I was about 6 years old. In 2006, my brother Marcus was shot and killed. 6 years later, another brother, my Andre. 4 years later, my dad passed of cancer. And then 4 years after that, another brother of mine was shot and killed. Um, the spark for me was, I think around 2012, my brother Andre got killed. Like, I kind of realized that I felt like there was no way for me to stop the loss and the grief. And I remember asking my wife, I was like, I was reading a book at the time, it was called A Few Keys to All Success. And all I got from the book was forgiveness. I was like, oh, they tricking me. So I got forgiveness out of this book, and I remember asking my wife, I was like, yo, do you think I got like this unforgiveness towards my biological mother? And she was like, yeah. Wait. So I knew I had to ask her for forgiveness. But the beauty in that was what I learned how powerful forgiveness really is. Like, so she actually asked everybody else for forgiveness after that. But for me, the powerful thing was like, I think forgiveness is like this thing that you put in the GPS, right? You still got to navigate to it. So in 2012, I asked her for forgiveness, but I didn't find it to probably 10 years later. You know, so I think forgiveness. So anyway, to answer your question, the spark was like that moment I knew God had something more for me when I found something else versus the title I was reading.
Powerful. So for each of you, like, what inspired you to finish your book and to release your book also? What inspires you to finish your book?
So what inspired me to finish my book? So I remember, you know, we like to go and find our ancestry sometimes. So for me, it was like, all right, let me learn who I am. Because out of all my brothers, including my dad, like everybody went to jail or prison. And I was the only one that kind of survived that jail or prison. And I wanted to know, where did that come from? So I went down this rabbit hole of understanding how people of color, we inherit pain. We inherit pain from the cotton field. And a lot of times we're fighting things we don't understand why we're fighting, or what we're fighting, or who we're fighting. So for me, I was going through the ancestry, and I found this brother that happened to be like my great grandfather. His name was Andrew. And his last living daughter, I called her. I was like, hey, I found an arrest record for Andrew. Do you know who he is? And she was like, yeah, that was my daddy. And I was like, well, they say that he was in jail for theft, right? He was like stealing cattle or something. Right? And she was like, yep, he did it. And I thought that was so fascinating because a lot of things that we inherit certain behaviors. And even when I looked at my bloodline, all my brothers, all my family members that went to jail or prison, they went to jail for or prison for theft. So it's like they inherited that behavior. You know, to this day I won't steal, I promise. But for me, I think like the feeling from it, right? I won't feel bad if I did, right? And I think that's something that a lot of times we got to challenge those behaviors that we're wearing and where they come from. So,
So the question is, what inspired you to finish your book?
I'm the author of 50 plus books. I'm also a book coach, so I write for a living for the last 12 years. So I have written thousands of books for clients all over the world. My first book was published in 2012. I had just got my license as a minister, and I was super excited to become a volunteer
at a prison. I wanted to go visit the women, and I wanted to ask them, why y'all be here? I want y'all to I really just had a desire to see why women were criminals. Like, why were y'all criminals? I thought criminals was be, men. It just
Right.
didn't make sense, but becoming a minister gave me access to the jail system. And I was super excited to volunteer. I went in to visit the women. And while I was in there, I was praying with them. Like I was literally praying for their families, their children, literally just telling them it's going to be okay, you're going to get out. Because I found out that a lot of them were actually innocent. And a lot of them were just hanging with the wrong people. And they were guilty by association. But one of the girls in the jail, she said to me, do you have a book on prayer? And I was like, no. I don't have a book on prayer, but you can ask somebody to buy it. There's other writers, that you can actually look up. I started giving up references of the people I was reading, Dr. Cindy Trim, all of the people that were pouring into me that were intercessors. But when I left that jail, there was a conviction that I couldn't let it go. I was already a writer, but I had no material. I was always writing, but I didn't have a book. And I was like, well, where do I start? I'm not a writer, but where do I publish? I just didn't know where to go at all. And then someone invited me. I'm also a psalmist. Somebody invited me to come sing at their event. And while I was there was a Christian publisher. And she was like, hey, anybody in the building that want to write a book? And she was like, I have a promotion going on. And I was like, oh my God, my spirit got really excited. And it was like, this is her. But I didn't have no money. All right. So I was like, I'm broke. I don't know what I'm with, but okay. But when you really trust God, you just go past what you feel and you just go ahead and say, let me just step out on faith. And I end up saying, hey, woman of God, thank you for getting up talking about yourself. I have a book about prayer. It's only got 13 pages, but I gotta get it to the people in jail. I wasn't thinking about money. I wasn't thinking about being famous. I wasn't even thinking about having a career. I wanted the girls in jail to be able to learn how to pray. And she said, oh, I'll do it. I said, well, how much you charge? Because girl, I'm broke. I'm a single mom. I'm living out of a one-bedroom apartment. I don't know how to pay you, but I said, let's talk. We talked, and she said, okay, I'll give you the fees. And I said, well, now y'all gonna think I'm crazy with those judges. I said, well, can I pay you in food stamps?
I know that's right.
And
Hey.
this crazy lady said, sure. And I was like, see, I knew this was God. I just do it. So she allowed me to pay my first deposit, and I literally gave her food stamps every month to pay off my first book.
Oh my
It was
God.
nobody but God. I didn't have the money. I didn't have the resource. It was a God connection. I'm glad I took that event. I'm glad I went to go sing. And what really made me finish was the women in prison. It wasn't even about my gifts. It was about answering that prayer for those ladies. When it was done, it was about 37 pages. So don't think about the pages, be obedient. It was 37 pages, but it changed lives forever, and it still is.
Amen. Amen.
I'm glad you said that last piece about the pages. So I have written I published 6 works. And so I'll share the very first one. It's called Speak the Sheep, Women and 10 Truths. And like I said earlier, at 40 years old, I had an experience with the Holy Spirit for the first real time. Real time. And I would say like 15 times. I just kept going to the altar. I didn't know that but But when I had a bona fide experience, that is when the Lord asked, will you come out on the water with me? And I said, yes. And so I resigned from a 17 plus year career as an international educator and advocate. And the first book was the precipice for everything else. And I actually wrote it in 7 days, wrote, edit, released in 7 days. I did not sleep for about 72 hours, literally. Stayed home, got up, used the bathroom, and got to typing. This was back in 2018. So there were all these coaches and all this stuff. So I learned how to format. I learned how to do everything on my own during that time. But I pushed it out because I knew there was something that was stuck on the inside of me that was going to keep me from being able to keep moving. And so my books are books of release. I don't write books just to write them. I don't just write a bunch of junk that has a bunch of pages. I write when I have learned a lesson. And so instead of writing a memoir, because at the time, at 40 years old, with 4 sons still in school, a divorced woman getting ready to quit her job, I didn't feel like my story was finished enough for a memoir. So I realized there's more than one way to skin a cat. And so I decided to write conversational narratives. And so there are little short lessons in increments of 10. And so I help you to deal with the things as I have dealt with the things instead of waiting until I'm 70 years old. And so I had to get that first book out so that I would be able to quit my job. It's been 7 years, I've not been traditionally employed, but God has kept me. And so now I write the books and I've learned the lessons. And so sometimes it takes 2 years. Sometimes it takes 5 years, you know. So when I've allowed the Lord to deal with me, then I release the book from a place, from the scar instead of the wound.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What spurred me to finally publish the book was I had time. I was constantly working, constantly just like grinding just in my own head. And I just didn't feel like maybe the time was there. Like I was always just putting it down. It was just something to do. And then something told me, once again, instead of my college, like I refer to them as my girls. And I was like, let me see what my girls are doing. And I opened my laptop and I started reading what I wrote and placed down several years ago. And as I'm reading it, I'm laughing, and I'm out into it, obviously I've grown a lot since then. And as soon as I had the thought of, I wonder what I'm going to do with it, the very next day I met my editor. And he was just like, send me your manuscript. And I'm like today? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah. So I sent it to him, and he asked me, like, what's your word count? And I was just like, right, I'm like, so I look it up, and it's 114,000 words. And I was like, how long does it take you to write this? So I kind of said, and once I sent that to him, he was just like, you have something really good here. And he really kind of pushed me to do it, and we just been rocking and rolling ever since. Yeah.
Love it.
Is y'all? It's a good day to be black.
Yes, it is.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So another question that I have, like, what truth did you wrestle with the most while writing? And how did you decide how much of yourself to put out there with your writings?
I like to tell people that it's important to, I don't think we should bleed on the page. I was just talking to somebody about that. There are lots of independent authors right now who are wanting to share their stories, and I know that writing is therapeutic. However, there are certain things that remain in the journal. And by the time we pass our stories on to our readers, they should be helpful, not hurtful. And so I believe in sharing as my stories align to my purpose. I believe that Revelation 12:11 tells us that we triumph him by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimonies, and we do not live our lives unto the death, which your reputation is your life. And so it's important to care more about being free than taking stuff to the grave. I think I'm taking that to the grave. It is what is leading many of us to early graves because we refuse to want freedom over our reputations. But I don't believe that we should tell everything for the sake of telling everything. But we share as it is aligned to purpose. And so I share, like I said a moment ago, um, once I have lived through the thing, grown through the thing, healed through the thing, and then I share it. And I only share what is going to edify my readers. I don't want my readers to walk away worse than when they picked up the book. And I think a lot of times we do that to our readers. They're triggered worse by the time they finish reading your story because you just sort of laid it all out. And there are certain parts that really don't need to be laid out. And so I would just encourage, if you're going to share, especially nonfiction, you're going to share pieces of your life, make sure it is aligned to the purpose that God has given you in life. Because everything isn't a part of the purpose. And those pieces don't necessarily need to be in the story that's written.
And with my first book, even though I had the publisher, there is this fear that comes over you when you get ready to do it. Y'all can testify, go, oh my God, it's gonna happen. So I was super scared. Like, but I struggled because, again, I was broke. I had a few baby daddies. I felt unworthy to put a book out. I felt like I just want to publish it, but I only wanted to go to the jail. Like I didn't want my family to know. I didn't want like this big old announcement. Again, I wasn't looking for fame. I wasn't even looking to be found. It was really ministry and obedience. I struggled with self-worth. Um, I came from poverty. I didn't come from this big, beautiful home with a white picket fence. So I felt like the only people that were authors were people that had money and people who actually had it all together. That was a conviction that God had to deal with me. He had to really make me look in the mirror like, girl, you still got some work. Like, your past is not who you are today. Um, it took me to continue to go with self-affirmations. I had to really go on a fast. I had to pray before she pressed that button. I struggled terribly because I thought, what is everyone going to say when the book drops? Girl, no, she don't got no book. When you feel like their past is a little iffy, you be like, girl, you wrote a book for who? So for me, I was thinking about what are you going to say about my character? Yes, I am a licensed minister now, but just because you changed or because you've grown, don't mean people are going to give you credit. You understand what I'm saying? So dropping the book, I battled with self-worth. I felt like, okay, my mama was on drugs and I was a mistress, baby. It was just so much going on. I was like, oh, they're going to tear me up if I drop this book. But it was something about affirmations. Before I dropped the book, I went on a fast. I told my publisher, let me fast. I need to go before God and I need to be ready. In that moment, those 5 to 7 days fasting, nothing but water, I began to love me more. I began to see that I was this beautiful Black woman who was intelligent, I was smart, I was more than where I came from, I was more than what the people would think, I was more than baby daddies, I was more than food stamps, and here I am all these years later, been working for myself for 12 years, have never had to. I worked off of food stamps, I bought my first home, I made my first 100,000. If I had never just really sat with God for that fast, I don't think I would have done it because I felt so low. That was my struggle. I was thinking about what people was gonna think versus what God thought. And once he fixed that, I was like, I grew the word. Like I felt like, girl, I'm coming.
That's
I'm
right.
taking a food stamp, but I'm coming. So I worked myself out of that. I had to find God and get past that lack of self-worth.
Amen.
What similar to you, what I kind of struggled with was imposter syndrome. Um, I've been an accountant for 12 years. So I'm used to reconciling everything down to zero, like everything balanced out. 2 + 2 is gonna be 4. But when you go into something artsy, it is very subjective, and you don't know who's gonna receive it. And I'm like, I don't know what the outcome is gonna be in accounting. I know this is gonna reconcile to zero, and if it doesn't, I know where I need to make profit. So I was extremely nervous just putting my work out there. And once I did, like the reception has been so warm, so welcoming, and like I built a community. And it's crazy because it's like strangers will like post about me or send me emails or like want me on their podcast or want to do these things. And I'm just like, what? Like just me? And they're like, we really love your book. Like it's so relatable. And that just means a lot. And just for someone who wrote this as just struggling through life, and it brought me so much joy. And the fact that like I released my book last summer and I've already sold 640 copies.
Oh, wow.
One bad, one sound, like I don't have a team.
Right.
I'm just like, I can't believe this many people are like pouring into me, supporting me, and they're like, where's your sequel coming out? And I'm actually sending in my manuscript for the follow-up to this to my editor.
Okay.
Like going out on faith and really, really believing in myself and just knowing that like I'm that girl.
Good. There you go. That's right. That's right.
All right. Just to kind of reiterate the question. What is, no.
What did you rest with? Yes. What did you rest with most? Okay.
Truth that I wrestle with while writing.
And how do you decide how much of yourself?
Okay. Awesome. So in my book, it took probably a duration of like maybe 8 years to finish my book, right? I had this idea, and it's crazy because I had the cover done, I had the title, I had all this figured out before I actually completed the book. I sent it off to a few people that was like, nah, that's not it. But for me, it was about I rewrote the book 4 different times. But one time, the third time I rewrote the book, I sent it to my father-in-law and I let him read it. And I remember him asking me, it was funny because I'm one of those that kind of like God taught me to teach. God taught me to learn the things people are not saying. People will say so much, and then, so anyway, he asked me, he was like, "You sure you want to put all that in there about your dad?" And then he asked me about my mother, which we never had a conversation about my mother, but he asked me about my mother. He was like, man, he told me 2 things. One, he said people always will rise to the occasion sooner or later, right? And then he said the other thing, he was like, your mother, he was like, man, she was probably just surviving.
Right.
And I was like, man, like, even though I knew that, right? It was amazing just to hear it outside of my own universe, right? But then when I went back to read the third version of the book, I was like, man, I don't think I want people to feel, to your point, right? I don't think I want people to feel like I had some resentment towards my mother, right? Or I hate this woman, right? Because that's not the truth, right? So then when I started writing the 4th version, it was like, oh, God gave me the understanding of what the hidden superpower was, which was forgiveness. And I think a lot of people like I think we kind of discredit like forgiveness or how powerful forgiveness is. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
To that point, I was talking to a friend of mine. His father, he was raised without his father. And we was just having just a good dialogue. He said to me, he was like, man, I got a different opinion about forgiveness. I feel like, the people that did this to me, they know what they did. Like, why should I forgive them? And the question that I asked him, I was like, let me ask you something. I'm one of those that kind of think weirdly about things. I said, you know what? I said, if Satan were to denounced himself and asked God for forgiveness. Will God forgive him? And he was like, yeah, God will forgive him because he's perfect, you know, like he's supposed to in a sense, right? And I said to him, I was like, well, would evil still exist? Would evil still exist if Satan were to be forgiven and denounce himself as being Satan? He was like, yeah, I think evil will still exist. I said, that's how you know forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. Because what they did to you still gonna be around. You know, and I think we kind of lose the texture of like a full like forgiveness. You don't actually have to go to a person, right? You have to learn it for yourself. And one lesson that I learned in this book was that I gave myself permission to carry this for years, and it was hurting my elevation in life because of it. I was carrying all this stuff. Once I got to a place and I moved all this stuff out of the way, I learned that I had given myself permission. So forgiveness is super important, and that's the part that became important versus telling the stories of my dad or my mother and making the reader feel like I hated them because neither was true.
Oh,
Again, powerful, powerful, powerful. So this will be the last question. So like, what is the biggest impact you hope that your books make on people?
oh.
Biggest impact. I want people to see themselves. We focus a lot on other folks. To what you just said, it's about other people. But the truth is, we are walking around doing things, being self-centered. It's funny how being self-centered keeps you focused on other people. Wild, right? The enemy keeps us in that place. And so it is my prayer that when people read my books, that they don't see me, that they don't see other people, but that they see themselves, and that there's something that they read within my work that makes them say, ouch, maybe I need to work on that. Maybe I need to do this. It is my prayer that the Lord meets them on the pages. And after 8 years of writing and hundreds of messages, I know that is what is happening. I also, and this is a sidebar. If you know me, it's always a sidebar. As an educator and an English educator, I would love to encourage anyone who is thinking about writing to remember that writing is a craft. There are so many people who are just putting words on the pages. Just like you would not just go throw some paint on a canvas and call it art, writing is a craft. Learn the craft. Learn the language in which you're going to write. Study how others have written in the genre you're going to write. Don't take it for granted, because I believe our teacher said earlier, it's legacy. What you put in these books when you are long gone is going to speak for you. So it's important that you understand the words that you're using on the pages, that people are going to remember you by. And I have read tons of work that I would love to be able to say, please take that back and rewrite that thing, because you don't want history to remember you in this way. So remember, yes, you have a story to tell, so tell it well. Care enough about your story to tell it well. And if you don't have the time to read, I don't know how you have the time to write. So read some books before you write a book. So right now I have a community of writers. I have a mentorship program where I am coaching tons of people.
They're all authors. Either I wrote for them or they brought me their books to redo them. The biggest impact I want to make right now is to see authors maximize what they have. And so January 1st, I dropped 15 books for authors. And these 15 books really help you learn how to go live, how to use AI, how to create content, so these 15 books really take you to the next level where you don't just have a book, but you have a movement, you have a platform, and you can move from where you are to off your job if you really want to. So I think right now I want to help authors maximize the book. And so my authors that I'm working with right now that I'm coaching, they have stage plays coming out. Their books are on conferences. They have workbook. They have classes. They got workshops. I refuse to let anyone that I work with just write a book. The book was the assignment, and now you have a movement. And so I think I think God has me on a road now, developing authors on this is more than paper. This is a move. And you gotta believe that because he gave you the gift and the gift will bring wealth. And so right now I'm teaching authors how to serve so they can attract sales. I think for me, a lot of authors just write, and then they just sell, but they don't know that there's more. That's what I want. I'm looking forward to opening up a Black bookstore here in Augusta, a cafe where we could come together. I'm looking for a building. I'm looking for permits. I already have my license in the state of Florida. I'm new here, y'all. I just moved here in May. So I'm so excited to be in Augusta. I don't know what's here, y'all, but I'm looking for it, right? So I hope y'all welcome me here. So I just want to maximize authors in this season. It's not about my story anymore. It's really about who wrote a story and they have not met the max that they can achieve.
Love it. Love it.
I would say my book and the takeaway is that 30 is just an arbitrary number, as is 40, as is 50, and that just because one person's path looks different from yours doesn't mean that your path is wrong. That we all come into our own on our own. And also be mindful of the people you have around you. When it's always chaos and confusion, then you might need to veer away from that. And one thing I can say that I really appreciate is I have a solid group of girlfriends. And when I meet women and they're just like, I don't have any female friends, I feel bad for them. Because I have a group of friends that pour into me, that show up for me. And when my sister passed away in 2023, she had cancer. So leading up to that, my therapist was like, tell your friends what you're gonna need. And so I started telling them what I would need. And so when my sister transitioned, when I tell you my friends came over, supported me, packed my bag, got my flight, was like, let me get the Uber for you to get there. Because when you're in the midst of chaos, you miss things. And in that moment, I was like, wow, I'm really honored to have friends that just show up for you through every evolution of life. Because I wasn't always this. I wasn't always keeping it cute. Sometimes I was keeping it a mess. And so the fact that like people were able to show up for you is very important. And in the book, I just really wanted to honor friendship, loving of each other, and sometimes just your friends can be your soulmate. Soulmate doesn't always have to be romantic, and like value that. And throughout your journey, just be mindful of the people you have around you. When you're up, it's easy. But the true testament is when you aren't at your best and people tell you to show up for you. So that is what I feel like I take away from the and I just feel like you see yourself in these characters. Thank you.
So in the back of my book, I've got why go to therapy. Therapy was one of the things to help me navigate through loss and grief. Sometimes through life, we just survive through everything, really. Right? Your whole makeup is designed to survive. So I remember when my dad passed in 2016, I opened up a store of mine, and I just didn't have time to grieve. It was like I was too busy. I didn't grieve him until 2 years later. but I didn't know I was grieving at that time. So I think the biggest impact that I want people to take away, like normalize therapy, normalize like unaddressed trauma, because we all have it, we all experience it, and then learn to kind of gives. That's one thing I think the book taught me is like when people, hey, I'm from the hood, but like there are certain moments where I think about like turn the other cheek, right? What Baba tell you turn the other cheek, and I think about yeah, if somebody slap you in the face, you gotta give them grace. But I'm like, hold up, but, but for me, like it makes me look at people like, man, like we're so broken, like we're so hurt, and it allows me to give them like real grace now. One of the perfect illustrations of forgiveness. When Jesus died on the cross, like this. Listen, when I think about things, I call it like just a stupid thing sometimes because I ask like a stupid question. They're not stupid questions, but I ask them stupid questions, right? So when Jesus died on the cross, there was a moment that I often think about, like people helped him die, right? People would come and spit on him, laugh at him, and there was a moment where Jesus was like, he didn't even internalize it. He was like, Father, forgive them, they know not. I'm like, hold up. Like, in my mind, I would have been like, I better not get healthy. I better not survive this, right? But like, man, for him to be at that level where he didn't even internalize that, and he asked God to forgive them. He didn't even say it for himself, right? So I just think like that's the level of grace that we got to give our people. That's the level of grace we got to give each other. And we just got to normalize therapy. I think that's super important for us.
This, y'all don't understand how full my spirit is right now. Like, this is amazing. I want to thank y'all. Do we have any questions from the audience of these authors that's sitting up here? No? Okay, yes? Okay, so we're gonna let each of the ones that's up here right now say a couple of seconds of what they need to say, and then we're gonna throw a closer out there, and then y'all sell some more, and then we're gonna get out of here. All right?
All right. So they go good stuff, right? So this is a free game for authors, right? All you authors trying to sell your book. You can go to every military base in the nation and become a vendor, right? They don't charge you up front. They do take a percentage on the back end. Each military base take a percentage off. It's different per base. And as you travel around and you go to different events, like make sure you go to the PX Exchange in that port or that city, right? All you got to do is talk to the business manager, email them. They'll give you an opportunity to set up your book and sell your book. That's another way to get our military and our veterans to actually support you in your book. A lot of times you wouldn't even see them other than, being on the base. So that's like free game for everybody who's an author. But not just author, like if you got something to sell, like make sure you go to the military base and do that because that's a way for you to, get a little change. It's like,
That was good. I need that information. I do have a Black History promotion going on right now. It is only $280 if you want to write your book. It is the ghostwriting, the editing, the formatting, the Amazon publishing, the entire process. I only ask that you come to me with a story. Sickness, divorce, anything you survived, it has to be a survivor story. But again, the entire process is $280. I'm only doing it for 28 people. I think I have about 11 spots left. So I wanted to just say that 10 spots. So $280 you can write your entire book. It does come with your book cover. My graphic designer will do that for you. You're really not paying for anything but your prints and your ISBN number, which is mandatory. So yeah, if you want to jump on that, let me know. I got a few spots left.
All right, so outside of being an author, y'all have to please excuse me. I'm getting used to promoting myself, but I am the owner of Speak Up Sis as well, and We have an empowerment center at 2275 Rice River. Hey! I'm sorry, Miss Higgins is cute.
Right.
We host, for those of, since this is a literary event, we have the Bookish Market that takes place on the third Saturday of every month. More local authors, there are a maximum of 8. So you can come out, we have a book swap station, so those of you who like to read, if you want to refresh your personal bookshelves, you can bring in some books and you can swap them out for some new to you books that are at the bookshelf, the Bookish Market as well. So we welcome you to participate in that. And if you're interested in learning anything else about me, you can visit angelcharmaine.com. Then the very last thing, this is a gift to women. I have what I call the mirror list. As you can tell, I'm big on self-reflection and introspection. It's important. We don't sit down and think enough about anything, and it's imperative that we do. So it's called the mirror list. You just sign up, it's free, and about every 2 weeks after
Yep. Yep.
they're
I get the email.
So they're
On the mirror
every 2 weeks or so.
Yep.
You'll get a little message, and it's going to deal with some part of life, and it gives you a little something to do to help work on it. And like you said about therapy, here's some real hard truth. I've never been to therapy, and I think a lot of times we don't realize that therapy ain't free. Ain't a lot of people giving it out for free either. And I can say at this big age of mine, as I haven't worked in a traditional job, even if I wanted to go to therapy, who's gonna pay for it, right? And so that's a place where I sit a lot. So with the mirror list, it's an opportunity for you to really work on those inner things in the privacy of your own home through your email. And if you reply, I respond to you. So go to angelcharmaine.com, sign up for the mirror list. It's gonna bless your soul, I promise you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to tell everybody thank you. I really enjoyed this so much. Everybody was so kind, and I love this space. I love the energy over here. It's phenomenal. I actually drove down from Atlanta just to be here. It's like my first time really being here. It's actually a little bit safe. And also for you, I can connect with you because I actually know an organization that gives 12 free therapy sessions to Black women. So you can go once a month, so I'll provide that information to you. Yes,
All right.
yes. Okay. This was, yes. You have a question?
Yes. To all of the authors here. So I've done some book covers as well as an artist. Have you used any artists for your book covers, for your community?
I guarantee that's a no.
Um,
my God, what they did.
Black
Yeah.
The reason why I'm asking that is because someone mentioned reading. Where's my sister? Yes, reading. It's interesting that we're doing this within the month of February, not only because of Black History Month, but the Southern Migration in 1920 went to Harlem in different areas, urban areas in the nation, right? Had it not been for the South, we would not have a Black arts movement. Had it not been for the South, we would not have a Harlem Renaissance. Because all of that writing, art, and music was being suppressed by Jim Crow. So in this month, we have Zora Neale Hurston that you should really read. And of course, anything by Langston Hughes. But these people came from the South and brought this culture potency to Black life. Okay, Black life would not be Black life had it not been for the South.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, there would be no hip hop had it not been for those parents had parents who are the grandchildren of Grandmaster Flash and Jay-Z and all these cats. So my point is that the high frequency of art has always come from the South. Okay, even James Brown. So the reason why I'm asking that is because you have artists in the Augusta, myself, and I have a team of artists, as a matter of fact, who have done book covers and also illustrations. Now, I have a book, it's called Metatala. Check out my social media, and I'll guide you to the book. But I'm saying this because you can't have the visual without the audio. There's a marriage between that. And the first voice in the Harlem Renaissance was a writer. So all of the literature came from these writers that came from the South. So this is, I don't know how big you know that this is, okay? Because you're doing what they did during the Harlem Renaissance. This is not a migration, but an iteration of building a national agreement. A national agreement that Black authors not only should be heard, but they gotta be seen.
Yes,
Okay?
my words matter.
So, art allows you to be seen. Okay? So, not just the visual art, but literature, music, all those cats came from the South. Okay? So, this is a continuation. I'm not going to say something new. This is a continuation of our ancestors. Okay? So you're doing something that's really, really important, and your purpose has got to be sharpened by you being actualized in your purpose. Okay? So God bless you, sister.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to do. So please, if you're ever interested in getting a book done, you know, AI right now, it is a tool. Now, I'm an artist, visual artist, but I'm more of an audio artist than a visual artist. I listen to what's being said, and what that brother shared with us, I'm going to get that. But AI is a tool, and there are artists, don't let them lie to you, are using AI as reference. So they have an idea, they put it into the engine, and they use their reference, and they paint it. Okay? Now, I don't do that. I'm old school. I like to research. I like to research the history about who I'm painting and what I'm painting about. Okay? There's certain signs that I appreciate in using my mind when it comes to creativity. So I'm just encouraging writers. I see some book covers here, beautiful work, photographers, and also artists. Try to personalize your work with your work. Okay? I have a formula. I'm going to put the mic down. And I think somebody said something about, and she laughing, but she laughed. She's saying something about, I think you was talking about it, as a matter of fact. You mentioned, I can't remember your words. But when we are creating, there's a certain responsibility that we gotta have. And that's being showing grace to your reader, and showing grace to the person that's observing your art and listening to your art. That's not what's happening right now. If you listen to our music, they don't care about us. Okay? So, there are ways in doing that and presenting it, and I encourage you to continue to formulate and build